Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to comment on the dismay I felt in the aftermath of the Health Secretary announcing yesterday that he had COVID just days before he's unleashing the virus in all its misplaced glory onto a largely unvaccinated population. And in this video, I'm not so much going to have a pop at Sajid Javid, even though I will a little bit, but I'm going to reserve most of my disappointment on this occasion for members of the Labour front bench who struck completely the wrong tone in responding. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So here's the thing. I am very lucky in that a surprising number of people like listening to me talk about politics. Mostly British politics, let's be honest, mostly Brexit. But I'm neither a journalist nor a politician. My formal education is in physics and my professional skills, such as they are in teaching. And what's more, I am conscious of this. I've been very interested in politics for decades now, and I've lost count of the number of times I've seen people, sometimes even at the top of politics or journalism, make a right arse of themselves because they thought they were more astute than they really are. And when it comes to Keir Starmer leading Labour, I voted for him, not because I thought he was going to be the second coming, make us a great leader, but because he was the best of the available options. I still support him for the same reasons. Last year, he got things right. It was all fine. He ignored Brexit, which annoyed Boris Johnson no end, struck the right tone on COVID. He knew he couldn't go hammer and tongs on the government. People go, oh, you're not opposing. Yes, he was. You can't go hammer and tongs on them because the public were buying the nonsense about it all being new and mistakes were bound to happen. You had the rally round the flag effect. So Starmer instead pointed at what the government said they were going to do and then say, yeah, this is fantastic, great, we'll look forward to it. And then, hang on a minute, you didn't do this thing you said you were going to do. And it worked. But COVID is no longer new. Yeah, we've got new variants all the time and they behave very differently. But the pandemic is no longer new. The government have gone through several cycles of learning nothing at all at our great cost. What is more, the public mood has changed. Crucially, the public mood has changed. Boris Johnson is losing his own culture war. He tried to distract us with his levelling up speech, which I discussed this morning, but he's lost people with that shambles as well. And he is about to commit an epic failure of policy that few will be prepared to forgive him by dropping all measures against the coronavirus. This was the time for Starmer to step up and attack. Buoyed by the get out of jail that was the recent Batley and Spend by-election and the Conservatives' own troubles, Labour have the chance to get some momentum going. His programme of going out and listening to voters is great, fine, well done, but he also needs to turn himself into a rallying point for people. Yes, he needs to listen, but he also needs to say something himself. He needs to lead. He needs to say, this is what I stand for. And the rest of the people go, I stand for that too, so I stand with you. That's how it works. Sajid Javid announced that he had COVID. Now, it was all very confusing, because he was saying he was awaiting his PCR test. And it's like, even my partner said, well, is he positive? If he's waiting for his results, how does he know he's positive? Then he started going on about a lateral flow test. He's not basing it on the idea of a lateral flow test, which you're not even supposed to use if you've got symptoms. It's not for saying whether you've got coronavirus or not. It's for asymptomatic people to try and catch some people when they wouldn't know otherwise to go for a test. That's all its use is. He spoke to camera about it and performed. So he performed one definite dodgy act and possibly two. What he definitely got wrong was, suggesting that he took a lateral flow test after developing symptoms. Massive no-no. You do not take them when you have symptoms. They are worthless. Worthless. They are for asymptomatic people and only of limited use there. As I say, the Health Secretary basically revealed that he didn't understand how to use his own COVID test. Should have been straight on that. Straight on it. Secondly, he spoke without a mask to camera. Now, some have suggested, well, he could have filmed that himself. Yeah, he could. He's a very wealthy man. If he wants to get himself a setup, that's fine. But I would say, when you look at MPs who are also wealthy, maybe not as wealthy as him, but still wealthy, and you look at how when they do remote interviews from their own home, it always looks shocking. Absolutely shocking. No effort goes into how they present themselves other than making sure they have a flag behind them. There was no flag behind him even. That suggests to me that he didn't do this himself, that there was someone else there. Now, if that someone else was a professional photographer, then he's not wearing a mask when he's got COVID. Why was there anyone there at all, in fact? Why didn't he just do it in the normal way that people would record themselves at home? But he may have done it himself. I can't rule that out. But what Labour could have done at least was to query this, and definitely should have called him out to correct his misuse of the lateral flow test. What actually happened was that Starmer wished him well and said that he was glad it was only mild symptoms. No, 1,000 times no. That was fine last year when everyone was rallying around the flag, so to speak. People don't want to rally around these murderers anymore. They want to rally around someone who will tell them what we'd all like to tell them. Glad you've only got mild symptoms thanks to your 2 jabs, I'd have said. Shame that you're unleashing the virus on us all next week when almost half the population aren't fortunate enough to have your level of protection. Won't you rethink what every independent expert around the world is calling immoral madness? That's what I'd have said. That would have struck a better tone. Starmer doesn't have to play nice. I don't know why he thinks he has to play nice. What good does it think it does him? Labour will get elected when people see the Tories as the enemy. So Labour need to treat them as the enemy that they are. And this wasn't just Starmer being timid. You know, that wouldn't even make sense when he's been up against some of the most dangerous criminals in the countries. But it's not even that. We know he's not. I mean, there's certain things he's done. You can call them into question. He's doing another thing right now, by the way. There's some people in the Corbyn camp particularly who accuse Starmer of purging the Labour Party. There has been no purge. But there may be about to be. There may be about to be a very genuine purge. Now, I am not at all convinced about the logic in this in terms of moral rights and wrongs, in terms of practicality, but there is about to be a purge. So Starmer is not timid. He is not timid. This is strategy. And how I know that this is not some disbelief that a top prosecutor could be so scared of confrontation is because the Shadow Home Secretary used the same line in his response. Had to be coordinated. Now, I didn't see it amongst lots of other members of the front bench. I didn't see any response at all from the Shadow Health Secretary, for example, Jonathan Ashworth. But what it means is if 2 senior members of the front bench basically said the same thing, that suggests to me strategy advisors were involved and said, well, this is the tone to take. Now, it is just possible that the advisors advised a stronger line, that they advised that now was the time to strike as the iron is hot, start the offensive against the Tories and get people against them. When the death toll rises as more major surgeries are cancelled, be in a position to say, we told you this would happen. We told you very forcefully this would happen. You ignored us. You knew this was going to happen. You did it anyway. It is possible that the advisors said this and were ignored, that Starmer overruled them. But a team of advisors that are ignored on something that basic are not advisors at all. So I don't believe this version of events is likely, because this wasn't even difficult. I get that there are some issues where people might want Labour to take a stronger stance on something, but that it actually risks alienating more than it attracts. They always have to carry out that calculation. I've said from the start, I do not want Labour to adopt any position, even if it's one I feel very strongly about, unless it's with the expectation of making them more electable. If there's a particular position that I would like them to adopt, but it's not the right time or it wouldn't attract enough of the public, okay, don't do it then. Bugger anything that doesn't serve the one goal of toppling the Tories now. That takes precedence over everything. And sometimes they adopt a line that I don't quite get. But maybe there's something I'm missing. But this is basic. They don't have to kick Tory MPs when they're down. You wouldn't have a pop at Javid if he were fighting for his life on a ventilator, for example. But by his own admissions, his symptoms are mild. In fact, he was talking to camera, and you know what? For several minutes, no hint of a cold, no hint of a cough, no hint of a temperature. So yeah, I can absolutely... There were people even calling into question whether he even had COVID. Now, I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon. People said the same thing about Boris Johnson, then he nearly died. As far as I'm concerned, he's got COVID. But yeah, absolutely, his symptoms are clearly mild. He was able to speak fluently and even cheerfully to camera. He's basically okay. Just infectious. You wouldn't put off compassionate people by showing more compassion to the millions that this lunatic is putting in danger of death or long COVID than the Conservatives' latest addition to the cabinet of corpse merchants. And Starmer has copped a fair amount of stick. Some unfair, but this is politics. You don't get to whine about that. I've been sick of Labour over the past few years whining about, the media did this, it's so unfair. It's politics. Get used to it. Some valid criticism that was overblown a bit as well. Sure, again, politics. What do you want? This is the first time that I've seen people say that he's presenting no opposition. And I've thought to myself, yeah, can't actually defend this. This was a real opportunity to pile more pressure on the government. There is pressure building on them. Starmer could have jumped right on top. It reminded me when I used to do judo. Actually, this was in a jiu-jitsu class. And I was fighting a mate of mine. It was groundwork. And because I did judo as well, so I was quite good at that. So the teacher put his brother with him, not like a tag team because we were both on at once. And his mate of mine was trying to get me in a hold. And then his brother just jumped on both of us. But because I was the one on top, it just basically hurt him. And it's like that. Starmer could have been the one to jump on top. Boris Johnson's there. He's already got a load of pressure on him. Then suddenly, Starmer had the chance to align himself with public opinion. And what I'm most annoyed about isn't so much that an opportunity was missed. Frankly, these opportunities will be coming thick and fast now. There will be another opportunity. In fact, there is another opportunity today. Because you know what's happened now? Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak, who should, of course, be isolating, have said they're not going to. They've been pinged by the app, but they've been told to isolate by their own app. But they're refusing. Another case of, right, those rules don't apply to us. So, again, there's another opportunity today. I hope he takes it. But what worries me is that this was a basic one that was missed. This wasn't like, I could have done that thing. We've all done that. I've missed it now. Opportunities always look bigger when they're moving away from you, they're moving towards you, all that nonsense. The thing that this was huge. And the problem is they missed that yesterday. It makes me think they're going to miss others as well. I bet they missed today's. Labour polled ahead of the Conservatives at the end of last year. Starmer polled ahead of Johnson personally. It was all set fair. It was all fine. Then Labour took their foot off the throat. Yes, the vaccine bounce was real. That was always going to be real. But pressure was eased right off and the gap between them switched and widened. As bad as it's been for years. But the tide is turning again. But this latest episode, and on the face of it, innocent couple of tweets, makes me think they lack the killer instinct. They lack the ability to go, right, now's the time to go in. Do they think it's off-putting? To whom? Conservatives think of nothing of going in for the kill when an opponent is down. That doesn't put the public off. In fact, it makes them look strong. People want strong leaders. Boris Johnson's reign is going to end in complete disaster for him. But COVID will not let Starmer walk into number 10 any more than Brexit allowed Corbyn to do the same. It is not enough for the Conservatives to implode. Someone has to actually evict them. Someone has to go along and kick them out of the way. You're useless. No one likes you. Get out. Someone has to do that. And although I still say there's no alternative to Starmer, it's absolute nonsense people going, this is a disaster, we need to get rid of him. No, what we don't. What we do need to do is to say, you need to get better. He is the leader of the Labour Party. He's going to be the leader of the Labour Party. What we need to be able to say to him is, this has to be better. This has to be improved. Not you need to get out. The Labour Party have a dearth of leaders right now. That is why the best of the crop was someone who's only got a few years experience as an MP. Sure, he's been an activist for decades, but he'd only been an MP for a few years. I wouldn't normally get behind someone with that little parliamentary experience. We were forced into it. Who did we have? Maybe there are some who will grow for the future, but right now this is what we have. And I would urge people in Labour not to even try and replace him. You're not going to replace him. Don't even try. Encourage him to be tougher. Encourage him that he can take a stronger line, a much stronger line. And it comes back to this for me. Both Starmer and Simmons used the same line. Perhaps other front benchers did as well. I don't follow all of them. I don't know. But that two did means coordination. I learned that as a teacher, if two students write the same wrong answer in the same wrong way, they collaborated. So there was a discussion and an active decision that this was the way to go. In which case, one of three things needs to happen. One, if this was because advisors were ignored, stop ignoring them. If you don't like their advice, you replace them with people whose advice you will heed. Secondly, if this was because advisors did advise this, still get rid of them because you can do without that sort of advice. And third, if this was because Starmer and Simmons had a chat and didn't consult advisors, don't do that. Listen to your advisors. Otherwise, what's the point of having them? One of those needs to happen as appropriate. Labour cannot afford to keep missing opportunities like this. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.